Hello, my name is Haoran Chen from the course WRTG3012, and this is the video for the analysis of rhetoric in database system discourse. First of all, let's see how a database system is defined in Wikipedia. A database is an organized collection of data. A relational database system, more restrictively, is a collection of schemas, tables, queries, reports, views, and other elements. Database designers typically organize the data to the model aspects of reality in a way that supports process required information, such as modeling the availability of rooms in the hotel in a way that supports finding a hotel with vacancies. When talking about database systems, you might think of some of the words in this picture. Yes, actually, those data, entities, relationships, or SQL, those kind of things are the fundamental parts of a database system. So when you want to write an academic paper in this area, you would think of how the stuffs are represented. Normally, when designing a database system, we can separate the whole system into small models of entities and relationships between each other. But we can't really implement these models in a Scholar. Thus, in order to explain your study briefly and let the audience understand what you are talking about, some features could be added to the paper for help. The first skill is to add some pseudocodes when describing some algorithms or some procedures in implementing the databases. For example, SQL, which implements the building of schemas and queries in databases. Pseudocodes are some example codes written in general programming languages, which are not aimed to compare and run, but just to show how the process is implemented in steps. Those processes could be a faster way of sorting or a better way to write SQL. The pseudocodes could help the audience to pay attention to the core thoughts in your research. But the point is, the pseudocodes are word-based, so it is really important to separate them from the other sentences in the paragraph. A good idea is to use a text box and put the codes inside, like the example on the left. Making the word algorithm bold and numbering the steps could help the audience notice they are not reading the general sentences. Another way to write pseudocodes is to bold every keyword in the codings, like for each, if, return, to help the audience recognize that the paragraph is a set of codes. As we know, all the data in database systems are stored in the tables, or we say schemas. Some tables store the attributes of an entity, and also some tables are designed to show the relationship between multiple entities. Moreover, sometimes you need to provide some data of time in the code or result of research as well, which are the evidence of your explanations. Therefore, placing some tables in the papers of database system area is very common. The place of the tables is based on the number of columns and the width of each column. The table in the left example is very small. There are only 2 columns, and in each column, there are some example data showing how the attributes are stored. The small tables could be put in the paragraphs, and the explanation of the table could be described below the tables, so that when the audience reads the description, he or she could easily find the table again and follow your thoughts. However, if the table is really big, like the example on the right, it is much better to put it at the top of the page. Remember to put the number of the figure clearly under the table, so when the audience reaches the figure number mentioned in the paragraph, it is easy to catch up. Moreover, relationships between the entities play a big role in database systems. As mentioned before, most of those relationships are displayed by schemas or some columns of a schema. But unfortunately, it is usually impossible to draw a bunch of tables in one paper. Then, a system called ER diagram, shortened of Entity Relationship Diagram, is introduced to show this up. There are different sets of rules to draw an ER diagram, but generally, it includes shapes like rectangles, ellipses, lines, and arrows. Some words or phrases are written in the shapes to display what the shape stands for, so that it is significantly important to make a clear view of the ER diagrams in the paper if you want to use them. A messy design could easily confuse the audience understanding of your work. Just like the tables, if the diagrams are small enough, just put them in the middle of the text. The left example shows a good use of a small diagram because all the shapes and lines are clearly displayed. A larger diagram should be placed at the top of the page or on the next page, with the number of the figure labeled. However, sometimes, if you want to display a whole example of design, the space is not big enough. Then, placing it in the appendix is a good choice. In this case, you can stretch the graph as big as possible on the page, and do not need to worry about the space left for the text. The example on the right side is a suggestion from another academic paper in this area. These are the 3 simple but important skills to help you write an academic paper in this discourse. With a combination of 1 or 2 of those, you could briefly explain your research in this area. Thank you for watching and hope you have a good day.